Have you guys heard of that Reddit forum where they talk about men writing women? There's also this Twitter account that I follow, and I was actually going to reference them in this video, but they've been suspended for some reason. I don't know why. Basically, it's just passages and examples of men writing about women and how badly they can get it wrong. And it is hilarious. Even if you're a man and you're watching this video, you have to give it to me that some of these things are just flat out ridiculously funny. In fact, I'm going to read out a few examples. I strongly suggest that you listen to at least a few. I could not believe my eyes when I read some of these. This one is a classic, and I think it's probably one of the most oft quoted pieces of men writing women. But this man is talking about a woman who's hiding stuff. Okay, he said, the Emmy confirms his first estimate of time of death. The girl had a tiny purse tucked into her vagina, just big enough to hold her driver's license, a credit card, and a few bucks. First of all, I can't believe I have to tell you this, but a vagina is not a hidey hole. I know we put tampons in there, but we don't put them there to hide them. We put them in there to soak up blood. I spent a significant portion of my youth going to clubs, and I can promise you, not a single one of the women that I knew at the time, much less myself, was smuggling like currency in her hooch. How would you even pay for things? Oh, that'll be $12.95. Excuse me while I reach into my panties and take out my cash. Next up is this trope where male writers seem to think that women's breasts can convey emotion. For example, Noelle rolls her eyes. I think her breasts roll in sync with them. Girls' breasts are so amazing. I would just like to point out that men have breasts too. In fact, a lot of men get breast cancer because they don't know that they can get it, because they don't know that they have breasts. The more you know. But wait, there's more to the breast discourse. Her body was kept up well. I'd known that her breasts were large from a time we had hugged, but they were larger than I'd even thought. They must have gotten in the way during battle. Her whole body was soft though. It was hard to believe she was capable of such power in a fight. Is she beating her opponents with her breasts? Like just grabbing her breasts and just going gadong, gadong, gadong? Also, if she's going into battle, she's probably binding her breasts somehow. But wait, there's more. The cold air made my hair stand up from the roots, the way my nipples stood erect, every follicle on my arms and legs becoming a tiny clitoris. I guess there are worse ways to confess that you've never laid with a woman, but I can't really think of any offhand. Then, of course, there is the lyrical way men imagine women. Are you ready? No, you're not. A woman's strength is in her softness, her waitingness. The aura of the womb is upon her, and the passage between waking and sleep is an open one, involving no loss. Expressing the logical balance of life. But a man with his obligation of aggressiveness, his need to stir and thrust, must always die a little each time he yields to sleep. I think that man just said that men are too rapey to sleep, but I'm not exactly sure. Also, if you see an aura of the womb about me, let me know so I can go get an exorcism. And then, of course, there's this one. The only negative was a nasty rumor. Surely she couldn't go for women. She was too perfect, too exquisite, too appealing to the opposite sex. She was destined to be a trophy wife. Yes, how dare a woman want something that a man wants? Too cruel, too vile. How dare they? Lesbians. So obviously these are some extreme examples. Not all men write women this way, but I do think that men do contribute to the discourse on beauty and about female beauty in ways that are frankly weird. You have the whole all natural beauty trope that a lot of men are really invested in. Not even like writers, I mean, just like men that you might see, up and about in your day. I would be surprised if there is an hour of the day that passes on this planet without a man somewhere turning to a woman and saying, you'd be so beautiful if you didn't put on that much makeup. Because if she's wearing makeup, she wore it purposely for him and just him. That's what women think about all the time, Tom. How it makes you feel. Makeup isn't witchcraft. It's not like you can put on makeup and then become a whole other person. And I know there are like all these, transformation videos out there on the internet where you see people literally painting their face to look like different things, or like, like art pieces, or to give themselves a different look. And men always point that out as, witchcraft basically. Oh, it's all such a lie. You never know what a woman looks like until she takes it all off. If you feel that strongly about it, don't date women. Date men. I hear they have no standards. They're not visual at all. There are no subcultures of men who invest heavily in their image or how they look. Such slobs. People like to look good because it makes them feel good. Makeup is fun and it's an art, like a legitimate art. It's also a fun activity that you can do with your friends, with your mom, with your aunts. When I was little, we would have makeup parties at home, and my mom and her sisters would all trade makeup tips with each other, and I would be their tryout doll. I don't wear a ton of makeup, but that's not because I think makeup is bad. It's because it doesn't suit my skin. If I had the kind of skin that is prized by makeup brands around the world and I could find matching shades without having to go through an entire rigmarole, I would be so much more into makeup. And that kind of touches on issues that I'll be talking about later in this video. But coming back, a lot of men also use the whole, natural beauty thing to segue into the trope about women who don't know that they're beautiful. And it really makes me feel icky when I read those descriptions, because it kind of feels like you're looking for a woman with no self-esteem and possibly a cataract, or at least partial blindness. And what's amazing about these women who don't know that they are beautiful is that they are the most normatively beautiful women that you can come across. They'll always be really skinny, have perfect skin, shiny hair, just masses of it down their back, big beautiful eyes, a winning smile, and of course giant boobies. We've already established that. And it's funny how early and how deeply you internalize these things when you are reading. It's obviously reinforced by cinema and by TV, but even as a child, I remember the first time that I'd read Georgette Heyer, and the first book that I'd read was called Frederica, which is the story of this very efficient young woman who brings her young family, and she's orphaned, and she's in charge of her family, and this is Regency England, where a woman really has no rights. And she has a brother who is nominally the head of the family, but he's away fighting the war and is basically useless anyway. So Frederica has to manage for her entire family. And she's got two young brothers who need to be guided into adolescence, and also a younger sister who is fantastically beautiful. And Frederica is not beautiful, she's what they call a handsome woman in the 19th century. So she's attractive and she's good looking, but she's definitely not a beauty in the capital B. And I think I was about 12 or something when I first read her, and I literally could not digest the fact that Frederica was not beautiful. I didn't think about it at the time, but later on, when I was thinking about it, I realized that it took me many rereads to be absolutely comfortable with the fact that Frederica was basically, she was handsome, but she was basically plain next to her beautiful sister. Because when you read fairy tales and you read all the, stereotypical romances, you're sort of set up to think about the heroine as being this beautiful woman. And that standard of beauty is very specific. She's generally white, she's usually skinny, she has long hair, light eyes, probably blonde, and she also has a really easy time of it with sex. And honestly, this does not describe most women. But coming back to Frederica, one of the things that I really appreciate about that book is that Frederica understands the currency of beauty, and she actually utilizes her sister's beauty in ways to benefit the family. And that's fascinating to me, and I can probably talk about that on, at an extended level. But coming back to what we're talking about in this video, the idea of beauty being currency and being used in specific ways to mold popular culture, that is something that I've been thinking about a great deal of late, especially because I read a lot of diverse romances, and it's kind of shocking to me how recent a lot of these books are. Because when you're a modern reader of romances, you kind of don't think twice about like interracial relationships or about the lead heroine being from, a variety of races. She could be Asian, she could be brown, she could be black, or she could be white. There's still a significant part of the publishing industry of Romancelandia consists of white, hetero, incredibly beautiful female leads. I'm going to link down below to this one article about Alyssa Cole that talks about, the difficulties that authors of color have had in breaking into romance novels and how weird that is really. Because here's the thing, when we talk about how difficult it is for audiences to accept diverse leads, it's basically a continuation of a really terrible argument that has been in effect for decades at this point, which is that plain women don't make good heroines. There's this really hurtful trope in popular culture of plain women, ugly women, fat women who like to read books about romances and about, bodice rippers and stuff themselves with chocolate. And I want to just say that the idea of just knocking back with chocolate and my favorite romances is bomb. Sometimes I might want a fantasy just to break things up a little bit, but you know what? What's wrong with that? But the disdain that so much of culture has for women like that and for the things that women like, it's part of a larger culture of misogyny because it devalues and mocks things that bring joy to women. Women like happy endings? Well, that's unrealistic and stupid. Women like to read? Oh, they're actually, propping up an entire publishing industry with their buying? Well, let's mock them for it. There aren't many of us who would find ourselves on the cover of a romance novel, and I think that's fine. Sometimes I am in the mood to read about a woman who is just so fantastically beautiful that she stops cars when she walks across intersections. Don't really want to be a woman that launches 1,000 ships though, because that didn't really turn out well for pretty much anybody in my opinion. Anyway, the idea of beauty in novels, especially in novels written by women, I am so lucky in that I live in this time and age where we have so many great examples of women who write women. And for me, it really just goes back to Heyer again, who, like I've said before, is hugely problematic in a great many ways, but she did have the sense to write women who didn't conform to a cookie cutter standard. Like if you're reading a Barbara Cartland novel, they all look like clones of each other if you read the description. Their hair color might change, but otherwise, if you look at the pulpy covers of old Cartland novels, it's literally the same figure with like different colors of hair. And that's not true of hair. She gives women who are not conventionally attractive an interiority and a landscape within which they can live. They have heartbreak and they have crushes and they fall deeply in love and they have marriages. And, you know, like Hori in A Convenient Marriage, you know, she had a stammer and she didn't conform to the traditional beauty standards of the day. Jenny in A Civil Contract is just plain. She's not even handsome. Most intriguingly, Heyer was one of those writers who can tell the difference between beauty and glamour. So a Grand Sophie might not be as beautiful as, say, you know, some of the other women that you meet in that novel, but she is the most glamorous. And I feel we don't really talk about glamour as such when it comes to women because we think that only a certain kind of woman can have it or attain it. And I think the modern discourse around makeup is really about glamour. Style is something that you can learn. Makeup is something that you can practice. And so much of our lives are so visual that I think it makes a lot of sense to have the women that we read about not just be conventionally attractive, but be glamorous. A woman who dresses well, who takes great care and attention in the way that she presents herself. And this idea of a natural beauty or a woman who doesn't know, you know, if she's beautiful, I think it just harkens back to a very patriarchal mindset where women don't really have control over the way that they look or that they are received. Do I really have a point to all this? I don't know. This is one of my, I just had these thoughts and I think I'm gonna share them kind of videos, but I guess I'm just really excited by the diversity that I see slowly bubbling to the surface. And we think of diversity in terms of race, but I think there's also a diversity in terms of beauty standards. If you're talking about a black lead, you know, is she light skin or is she dark skin? How does she wear her hair? If she's Asian, then, you know, what are her eyes like? If she's Desi, does she have short hair? If she's Latina, is she chubby? A lot of these ideas aren't exclusive to a particular ethnicity or anything, but I feel like just having those representations and being able to see such a variety of women, even if it doesn't directly correlate with your own experiences or you can't really see yourself in that book, just the process of seeing another person who isn't, you know, solely white, blonde, and skinny. I think it does wonders for your imagination and your self-image. And this isn't like, you know, I'm not hating on white, skinny, blonde women. They deserve love too. I just think that there is enough space for a variety of us to lay claim to the right to have love and romance and care and just sheer badassery. For more videos, please hit the subscribe button.